Resident Evil 3 Remake. Let's talk about it.
Alright, let me grab my...
You may know recently that I've been on a Resident Evil rampage on this channel, and since finishing the remake of Resident Evil 2, I was craving more Resident Evil action, so I decided to jump headfirst into the Resident Evil 3 Remake. This game is a follow-up to number 2, and takes place once again in Raccoon City at about the same time as the previous game. I would also probably recommend playing 2 first, as there are a handful of locations that are the same or very similar, and it'll both give you a sense of connectivity and help fill in some backstory and explain why certain areas are the way they are in Resident Evil 2. During the story, you'll jump between 2 characters, Jill Valentine and Carlos. This is just part of the main story, and you won't get to choose who you play as there's only one story and one playthrough this time round. A few aspects of the game and combat are changed or improved upon from the previous game, these being the addition of a dodge button, allowing you to avoid enemies if timed correctly, or in Carlos's case, to punch them away with aggression. The ability to fend off enemies if you had a knife or a grenade in your inventory is now gone, and instead an enemy will basically always be able to take a bite out of you if you get too close. Instead, there is a button mash prompt that seems to help you get out quicker and take a bit less damage. One of my absolute favourite parts about this game was being able to explore a lot more of Raccoon City. You're given the ability to run around and explore a decent chunk of the city in the first area of the game, but this feels like it's cut insanely short with the reappearance of the large and terrifying Nemesis, who will chase you to the ends of the earth to beat you down and kill you. He can sprint, he can pull you back from a distance with tentacle-like things, and jump over fences, meaning you basically can't get away from him unless it's part of the story, especially since he can run faster than you and can attack quite quickly. A handful of times I was stunned and locked in a corner while he beat me to death, which was a little frustrating. When you actually do get a chance to stop and look at the environments, you'll learn they're as gorgeous as ever, and the amazing lighting on top of the dark, dreary locations looks phenomenal. Nemesis has a multitude of forms within this game, some fun and some annoying, but he was quite an interesting boss character, and I definitely hated him the entire way through. The game often felt like it was rushed. Some areas could have had so much more potential if there was just a few more explorable areas or puzzles, and if the game didn't seem to be desperate to just shove you through each level instead of letting you fully explore and learn all the secrets there is to offer. And can I just say, as is my experience with basically every other Resident Evil game I've played so far, the first area always seems to be the best or my favourite in the game. Right at the beginning of the game, there is a small section where you actually take control of Jill in first person. The FOV and the movement of this section felt so terrible and restrictive that about 2 minutes in I started to feel sick. Thank God the game then goes into third person and eliminated this issue from then on. There is a decent handful of new enemies as well as a selection that returned from Resident Evil 2, all of which felt scary and made me want to cry every time I encountered them, just like a good Resident Evil enemy should. My biggest complaint about this game, other than feeling rushed through each area, was just the short length of the game. It took me around 7 hours to complete the game altogether, with the average times on how long to beat being around 7.5. Now don't get me wrong, I don't have any issue with short games whatsoever, but unfortunately, it felt relatively rushed in the actual gameplay, and like it could have been a few hours longer. This game felt more like a DLC for Resident Evil 2 Remake, without actually being a brand new game, and despite loving how amazing everything looked and receiving more detail about the events and the world that it all takes place in, the game has resonated the least with me out of all the Resident Evil games I've played to date. I'm still super excited for the remake of Resident Evil 4, which I've never played, and I'm considering replaying Resident Evil Village with the new Rose DLC and third person edition. But I hope you enjoyed this short little not review of Resident Evil 3 Remake, and peace out.